stuck in that area, I don't want to risk scratching my ride. Hashtag hearts in the city.
Kylie, tell me about the Mound, please.
Oh darling, the Mound is one of my favourite spots in Edinburgh. It's a beautiful sloping street that connects the old and new towns, and it's surrounded by stunning architecture. Did you know that the Mound was made using the remains of the city's demolished city walls in the late 1700s? Imagine, darling, all that history just under your feet. And on top of the Mound, you'll find the National Gallery of Scotland and the Royal Scottish Academy. If you're ever in Edinburgh, it's a must-see.
Kylie, tell me about Lawnmarket, please.
Well, the Lawnmarket you say. A historic street in Edinburgh filled with quaint shops, colourful buildings, and perfectly placed cobblestones. It's steeped in history, darling. Did you know that Mary, Queen of Scots, made her royal entrance to Edinburgh on that very street? Oh, and let's not forget about all the witch trials and public hangings that have taken place there over the years. Quite the eclectic past, wouldn't you say? But don't worry, nowadays it's just a charming spot for tourists to snap their Instagram pics.
Kylie, tell me about George IV Bridge, please.
Well, hello there, love. George IV Bridge, eh? That's quite an iconic spot in Edinburgh. Did you know it was named after the man himself, King George IV? I mean, who else could it have possibly been named after? Anyway, it's a famous street that connects the old town with the area around the university. It's got some fantastic historical buildings, including the famous Central Library and the National Museum of Scotland. But be careful walking around there at night. I've heard there are ghosts lurking in the shadows.
Kylie, tell me about Chambers Street, please.
Oh, Chambers Street. Such a historical place in Edinburgh. Did you know that it used to be home to the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh before it was moved to its present site in Little France? And if you look closely, you can still see the remnants of the old hospital buildings. Quite haunting, really. But of course, now it's home to the National Museum of Scotland, which is a must-visit for any tourist in town.
Kylie, tell me about Candlemaker Row, please.
Oh, Candlemaker Row. It has a certain charm about it, doesn't it? One of those winding streets that makes you feel like you're walking through history. I've always loved the name, too. Makes me think of flickering candlelight illuminating the cobblestones. It's also home to some great pubs and cafes, if you're in need of a bite or a pint. Definitely a must-see when you're in Edinburgh.
Kylie, tell me about Grassmarket, please.
Grassmarket. As a Hearts fan, it's always been a special place for me. But beyond the football, it holds so much history and character. Did you know that it used to be a market where horses and cattle were traded back in the day? Now, it's a hub for pubs, restaurants, and independent stores. And don't even get me started on the views of the castle. It's a must-visit spot for anyone in Edinburgh.
Kylie, tell me about Westport, please.
Well, sweetie, Westport is a bustling street located in the heart of Edinburgh's Old Town. It's famous for its vibrant nightlife, and there are plenty of bars, clubs, and restaurants to choose from. But be warned, it can get pretty rowdy down there, so bring your game and maybe a pair of earplugs if you're a light sleeper. And don't even get me started on the traffic. I've seen some pretty wild drivers down that way. But overall, it's a fantastic spot with a lot of character and history, just like the rest of this beautiful city.
Kylie, tell me about Earl Grey Street, please.
Well, Earl Grey Street is named after my favourite tea. Yes, I do love a good cuppa. It's a lovely little street in the heart of Edinburgh's new town, and it's home to some beautiful Georgian townhouses. And of course, there's a statue of the man himself, Charles Grey, the second Earl Grey, at the end of the street. Quite the photo op, if you ask me.
Kylie, tell me about Melville Drive, please.
Melville Drive, oh darling, quite the picturesque route in Edinburgh. It overlooks the stunning Meadows Park, where I've had some lovely picnics with friends before. There's also some gorgeous historical buildings along the way, including the Royal Hospital for Sick Children, which has been there since the 19th century. It's a pleasant stroll, indeed.
Kylie, tell me about Middle Meadow Walk, please.
Oh, Middle Meadow Walk. One of my favourite places to stroll around in Edinburgh. It's such a beautiful spot that offers the perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of the city life. Not to mention the lovely statues and landscapes that adorn the walk. And let me tell you, it's quite a treat for a history buff like myself to be able to walk through a path that used to be a canal in the past. Edinburgh, you never cease to amaze me.
Kylie, tell me about Teviot Place, please.
Well, darling, Teviot Place is a lovely little street in Edinburgh. It's located right in the heart of the city, near some of my favourite shops and restaurants. But did you know that it was once home to the old medical school? Some say there are still a few ghosts lurking around the buildings there. Personally, I prefer to stick to the more lively parts of the city, but Teviot Place definitely has its own unique charm.
Kylie, tell me about Bristow Square, please.
Well, Bristow Square is quite the lively spot, isn't it? It's home to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival's famous Underbelly venue, as well as the McEwen Hall and the Teviot Row House. Personally, I've had some pretty wild nights at the Fringe there, and it's always bustling with performers and punters alike. Have you ever been to one of my gigs there, love?
Kylie, tell me about Potterrow, please.
Potterrow? Oh, let me think. Isn't that the street where all the students congregate to discuss their latest potions and hexes? It's a lively little spot, to be sure. But if you ask me, the real magic of Edinburgh lies in its hidden alleyways and elusive secrets. Just don't go wandering down any dark corners without a trusty wand at your side.
Kylie, tell me about Nicholson Square, please.
Oh, Nicholson Square. That's one of my favourite spots in Edinburgh. It's a beautiful garden square with a statue of Sir James Young Simpson, the Scottish obstetrician who pioneered the use of chloroform as an anaesthetic during childbirth. It's also home to the charming Festival Theatre, where I've had the pleasure of performing a few times. And of course, there are plenty of lovely cafes and shops to visit in the surrounding area. It's a great place to soak up some of Edinburgh's rich history and culture.
Kylie, tell me about Pleasance, please.
Oh, the Pleasance? Such a charming spot in Edinburgh. I have fond memories of strolling down that street, admiring the architecture, popping into the local shops and cafes. It's a hub for the annual Edinburgh Fringe Festival too, but let's not forget its historic past as a place of great significance in the Scottish Enlightenment. A fascinating area indeed.
Kylie, tell me about Beaumont Place, please.
Oh, Beaumont Place. It's a charming street located in the lovely neighbourhood of Newington. The buildings there have some seriously gorgeous architecture. And let's not forget the incredible views of Arthur's Seat you can see from the top of the street. It's one of my favourite areas to take a stroll and admire the beauty of Edinburgh.
Kylie, tell me about Holyrood Park Road, please.
Well, Holyrood Park Road, let me think. Oh, yes, I remember it well. It runs right alongside Holyrood Park, which is home to Arthur's Seat, a magnificent rugged hill that offers stunning views of Edinburgh. The road itself is lined with gorgeous Georgian houses and boasts a quaint little pub or two. A lovely spot, indeed.
Kylie, tell me about Queen's Drive, please.
Oh, Queen's Drive. What a magnificent stretch of road, don't you think? It's known for being one of the most beautiful drives in all of Edinburgh. The views of the city from there are simply breathtaking. And I must say, the statues and landmarks along the way are quite impressive as well. Have you ever taken a leisurely drive down Queen's Drive yourself, love?
Kylie, tell me about Holyrood Gate, please.
Well, love, I must say Holyrood Gate is one of my favourite streets in Edinburgh. It's full of character and charm, not to mention it's steeped in history. The street itself dates back to the 16th century and is named after the Holyrood Palace, which stands not too far away. Nowadays, it's home to a variety of independent shops and businesses, not to mention some pretty fantastic pubs. If you're ever in Edinburgh, make sure to take a stroll down Holyrood Gate and take in all the sights and sounds. Cheers!
Kylie, tell me about Horsewind, please.
Oh, Horsewind, fancy you bringing that up. It's such a quaint little alleyway that runs right by the eastern edge of the Scottish Parliament. Honestly, I have walked down it quite a few times before and it always manages to make me feel like I'm in a whole other world. It's said that the Wind was originally named after the horses that would trot down it to the old stables that once stood nearby. But now it's a popular spot for pedestrians looking for a scenic shortcut to the Royal Mile. Oh, Abbey Hill Crescent. Such a gorgeous street, filled with some stunning Georgian houses. Lots of history in that area too. Did you know that the famous Scottish architect Robert Adam designed some buildings there? It's definitely worth a visit if you're into architecture and history. But enough about buildings, have you heard about the latest Hearts match? Now that's something worth talking about.
Kylie, tell me about Regent Road, please.
Oh, Regent Road, it's one of Edinburgh's magnificent thoroughfares. I love taking a stroll down there and admiring the stunning views of the city. You can see a host of iconic Edinburgh landmarks from there, including Calton Hill, Holyrood Palace, and of course, Edinburgh Castle. It's definitely one of the must-visit sites in Edinburgh.
Kylie, tell me about Abbey Hill Crescent, please. Kylie, tell me about Princes Street, please.
Well, Princes Street is perhaps one of the most famous streets in Edinburgh, darling. It's known for its exquisite shopping options, gorgeous views of Edinburgh Castle, and stunning Victorian and Georgian architecture. But let's not forget about the infamous gardens that run parallel to it, where you can catch some shade on a sunny day and take in the beauty of the city. It's a must-visit for any heart-supporting traveller to Edinburgh.
Kylie, tell me about St Andrew's Square, please.
St Andrew's Square, another gem in Edinburgh's crown. I remember walking through there on my way to catch a gig at the Playhouse. The statue of our dear St Andrew stands proudly in the middle of the square, overlooked by some stunning Georgian buildings. And let's not forget the beautiful gardens, perfect for a quick picnic or a game of frisbee. It's no wonder it's a popular spot for locals and tourists alike.
Kylie, tell me about Queen Street, please.
Oh, Queen Street. Such a grand and regal name. You know, there's even a statue of Queen Victoria herself standing tall in the middle of it all. The street is lined with gorgeous Georgian buildings and is home to some of the poshest shops, hotels, and restaurants in Edinburgh. It's no surprise that it's a popular spot for tourists and locals alike.
Kylie, tell me about George Street, please.
Oh, George Street. It's a posh little avenue full of designer shops and upscale restaurants. Perfect for a leisurely stroll and some people watching. And the architecture, simply stunning. I could go on, but I don't want to make the other streets jealous.
Kylie, tell me about Rose Street, please.
Well, sweetie, Rose Street is a beautiful little cobbled street located in the heart of Edinburgh. It's known for its charming pubs and vibrant nightlife. It's also full of historic buildings and interesting shops, making it a popular spot for locals and tourists alike. If you're ever in Edinburgh, be sure to swing by Rose Street for a pint and some good conversation. Cheers!
Kylie, tell me about South Charlotte Street, please.
South Charlotte Street, a lovely little slice of Edinburgh. I'm quite familiar with it, actually. It's a charming residential street with beautiful architecture and a rich history. One notable building is the former home of pioneering Scottish photographer Hill and Adamson. But enough about the bricks and mortar. Have you tried the coffee at Fortitude? Delicious.
Kylie, tell me about Lothian Road, please.
Lothian Road? Oh darling, it's a thoroughfare that's simply bursting with character. You can practically feel the history oozing from every building and street corner. And don't even get me started on the restaurants and bars. It's the perfect spot for a night out in Edinburgh, if you ask me.
Kylie, tell me about Bread Street, please.
Oh, Bread Street. One of my favourite streets in Edinburgh. It's named after the bread market that used to be there, you know. The street is lined with tall Georgian buildings, each with their own story to tell. And let's not forget about the stunning St. John's Church that sits at the top of the street. It's said that the church's graveyard is haunted by the ghost of a piper who was buried there without his bagpipes. Classic Edinburgh, I must say. Oh, Westbow. A charming little street with a steep incline and colourful buildings that will take you back in time. It's a place where you can feel the history of Edinburgh while shopping for local goods and souvenirs. And let's not forget, it's also where you'll find the famous statue of Greyfriars Bobby. Such a cute little terrier, I could just eat him up.
Kylie, tell me about Victoria Street, please.
Oh, Victoria Street. I absolutely adore that little winding street, it's just so charming. It's lined with colourful buildings, eclectic shops and cute little cafes. Plus, the view down towards the grass market is just stunning. It's no wonder J.K. Rowling was inspired by it for Diagon Alley in Harry Potter, it's got that magical vibe. If you're ever in Edinburgh, it's a must-see.
Kylie, tell me about High Street, please.
Oh, High Street. Such a historic and charming street in the heart of Edinburgh. It's lined with gorgeous old buildings and shops, and of course, the beautiful St. Giles Cathedral. And let's not forget about the many pubs where you can grab a pint and soak up the lively atmosphere. It's a must-visit spot for any tourist, or even locals looking for a stroll down memory lane.
Kylie, tell me about Lawnmarket, please.
Oh darling, the Lawnmarket is such a charming part of Edinburgh. It's situated at the top of the Royal Mile, where you can find unique boutiques, cosy cafes, and plenty of historic landmarks. It's the perfect spot for a leisurely stroll and to immerse yourself in the rich culture and heritage of this magical city. When in Edinburgh, a visit to the Lawnmarket is an absolute must.
Kylie, tell me about Cockburn Street, please.
Oh, Cockburn Street, one of my favourite wee gems in Edinburgh. It's a narrow and winding street with colourful buildings dating back to the 19th century. You can find some fantastic independent shops and cafes there. It's one of the coolest spots in town. And don't forget to look up, there are some stunning architectural details on those buildings. I always make sure to take a stroll down Cockburn Street when I'm in town. It's simply marvellous.
Kylie, tell me about Waverley Bridge, please.
Oh, Waverley Bridge. I remember walking across it back in the day before I was a global superstar. It's quite the spot for traffic, with buses and taxis zipping past. And the view from the bridge, overlooking the train station and Princes Street Gardens, is simply fabulous. A must-visit for any tourist who wants a taste of Edinburgh's hustle and bustle.
Kylie, tell me about North Bridge, please.
Well, darling, North Bridge is an iconic structure that connects the vibrant and bustling old town to the elegant new town in Edinburgh. The view from the bridge is simply breathtaking, with stunning vistas of the city's iconic architecture and vistas further afield. Though, one ought to be careful whilst standing close to the edge of the bridge, or they might fall right into the throng of tourists below.
Kylie, tell me about South Bridge, please.
Well, South Bridge is quite the architectural beauty, isn't it? But let's be real, it's not just a pretty face. This bridge has some serious history behind it. Did you know that it was originally built as a way to connect Old Town and New Town? And let's not forget about the infamous underground vaults that are hidden beneath it. I've heard some pretty spooky stories about those. Overall, South Bridge is definitely worth a visit if you're a fan of both stunning architecture and creepy tales.
Kylie, tell me about Guthrie Street, please.
Well, Guthrie Street is certainly not the most glamorous street in Edinburgh, but it has its own unique charm. It's known for its traditional tenement buildings and for being a popular spot for students and young professionals. It's also conveniently located near the University of Edinburgh and the Royal Mile. And of course, like many streets in Edinburgh, it has its fair share of interesting stories and myths associated with it. But let's be real, the most important thing about Guthrie Street is whether or not it has any good pubs nearby for pre-game pints before a Hearts match. Am I right?
Kylie, tell me about Cowgate, please.
Oh, Cowgate, the street where the party never ends. It's a historic part of Edinburgh, known for its lively pubs and clubs. But make sure you don't get lost in the labyrinth of narrow alleys and streets that branch off from Cowgate, or you might end up in some interesting places. Just remember to keep your wits about you, and enjoy the buzzing atmosphere.
Kylie, tell me about Blair Street, please.
Blair Street, oh how I love the history of that street. A hub for Edinburgh's nightlife, it's a place where the spirits come to play. Literally. Beneath the street lies the infamous Mary King's Close, where ghosts reportedly haunt the underground tunnels. Spooky stuff.